Hi everyone, RJ here. Today, I will tell you about the importance of the rules of origin, the free trade agreements, the trade remedy measures, and the general interpretative rules, or known as the GIR. So first off, the rules of origin. It is a law, regulation, and administrative determination used to ascertain where a good was produced or manufactured, where it is called the country of origin of such commodity. The origin's importance in the world trade derive from the fact that duties and restrictions, in several cases, depend upon the source of imports. The rules of origin are used to implement measures and instruments of commercial policy, such as anti-dumping duties and safeguard measures. It is to determine whether imported products shall receive most favored nation or MFN treatment or preferential treatment. It is for the purpose of trade statistics and for the application of labeling and marking requirements and for government procurement. There are two types of rules of origin, which are the preferential and non-preferential, where the preferential rules of origin are part of a preferential trade agreements. For example is the FTAs, which provides for a tariff concession. The rules of origin determine what products can benefit from tariff concession or preference. And the non-preferential rules of origin are used to determine the country of origin for certain purposes, except those related to granting of tariff preferences, such as quotas, anti-dumping, anti-circumvention, safeguard measure, trade statistics, or origin labeling. Next is the free trade agreements. Free trade agreements reduce or eliminate barriers to trade across international borders. Free trade exists when nations can swap goods and services without the constraints of tariffs, duties, or quotas. Free trade lets nations concentrate on manufacturing their specialties, which are typically products that other nations cannot make or produce. Nations can buy products to the other nations that they need. For example, say two countries, one is specialized raising meat but is low in manufacturing technological field. The other country is specialized in manufacturing electronics but needs more meat. The two nations enter into a free trade agreement. Each lowers tariffs that exporters must pay and begin importing others' specialties. There are instances that government restricts trade in order to support local businesses and boost employment. But free trade is largely considered beneficial for nations that participate. It enables them to focus on core competitive advantages, thereby maximizing economic output and fostering growth. Many nations are members of the World Trade Organization, which aims to ensure that trade flows smoothly, predictably, and freely as possible. Free trade agreement's importance to the Philippines is that it helps the country to export goods that the country specializes, such as agricultural products. At the same time, the Philippines imports commodities from the other nation that they need. The FTA provides the Philippines duty-free market access for all industrial and fisheries tariff lines upon entry into force of the FTA. Philippines also secured tariff concessions on substantially all Philippine agriculture export to EFTA. Next one is the trade remedy measures. What are the trade remedy measures? Trade remedy measures are based on Philippine legislation and consistent with the World Trade Organization. These are trade policy tools that allow governments to take remedial action against imports which are causing injury, whether serious or material injury, to the domestic industry. Such remedies are divided broadly into safeguard, anti-dumping, and countervailing measures, where safeguard measure is adopted by the government to provide relief to affected domestic industries against imports. Anti-dumping, adopted by the government to protect the domestic industry against the unfair trade of practice of dumping. And countervailing, also adopted by the government to offset any bounty or subsidy given to exporters which is not generally available to other producers of the exporting country. The general interpretative rules is a single set of legal principles that always govern the classification of merchandise under the harmonized system. The GIR is an integral part of the harmonized system, providing uniform application and interpretation of its product nomenclature. Set out the principles in determining the classification of goods and consisting of 6 general rules, which will serve as a guide in determining the classification of a commodity. The GIR commodity classification is important because it helps us to determine correct classification of such commodity. There are lots of commodity being imported and exported, and each commodity has its own classification, which determines its tariff rate and preferential rate, such as Most Favored Nation or MFN rate, etc. For more information, just visit the site below. That's all for today's video. Thank you for listening and I hope you learned something.